welcome to episode 55 of Stitched in Sweden. I'm Maria, and you can find me on Ravelry as M. Monska and on Instagram as Stitched in Sweden. Today I thought I would tell you a little bit about this week in Stockholm, some projects I've been working on, one very close to a finished object, and some new yarn and what I think that might become. So you might notice that the lighting is a little bit different this week. I'm going to give it a try because it's getting darker earlier now because it's late October, and also because I don't have time to record earlier in the day, so I'm coming home and recording a bit later. But I think that it looks okay for now, and we'll see how it is when I start holding up some projects. So this week in Stockholm has been busy and cold. I keep saying it's finally winter. It's finally fall, but this week really feels like it is. The leaves are starting to change even more, and it's been right around 8 or 7 degrees Celsius, which is 45 or so degrees Fahrenheit every day, all day, and quite humid, so it makes for a chilly bike ride in the morning to school. But it also means that it's time to pull out some knitwear. So I actually this morning pulled out some of my shawls and things, and I think I will be washing some of them and giving them a nice fresh blocking so that they are ready to use, which is maybe something I should do at the end of the season, but it's always like shove everything into a bag and put it away. But yes, I've also just been wanting to knit all the time, which is nice that feeling has returned. But once again, I still have not sewn anymore on my quilt, and I would really love to have that for the couch. So this weekend it's going to happen. I also have been really busy because I started a new job, and that's pretty exciting for me, but it does mean that I have a little bit less time, of course, for other things. But yeah, what can you do? I am enjoying it so far, and I think it's going to be a really good experience for me to have. But luckily, even though it was a busy week because I started my job working 20% and continuing with full-time study, our class this week was very presentation lecture heavy, so I was able to do a lot of knitting while I was listening to other people present, and so I still managed to get a lot done with some projects I've been working on. I think I'll start out with the project which is very close to finished, and that is the cardigan that I knit, and this is going to be a new pattern for me. It's not for me, of course, it's for a child, but this will be a pattern by me, and it has a little pocket in there. The button band has been put on, and I have not put the buttons on yet because I don't have buttons yet, but I hopefully will be getting some soon. But I did block it, and I think it turned out really nicely. So I know last time I recorded I mentioned that I was looking for some test knitters to knit that and test out the pattern, and I have not responded yet, which is horrible, but yeah. I was planning on having the pattern all written up last weekend, and then things got crazy. So I hopefully will be able to do that soon, but I'm just not sure when it's going to happen exactly. This little sweater will eventually be ready for test knitting sooner rather than later is the plan. Another thing that I worked on right after recording last time is the Ramble shawl, which is a pattern by Andrea Mowry. I knit this shawl using 2 weights and 3 different colors of Quince & Company. So it's really only a 2-color shawl, but with the yardage that I had in my stash, I decided to go with 2 very similar colors and use it as if it was 1 color and then 1 contrasting color. So here is my contrasting color, and this is Bird's Egg, I think, and it's in the fingering weight base, which is called Finch from Quince & Co. I also have this color, which is Egret, and Egret is a really creamy white color, which you can see. This is actually on Chickadee, which is the sport weight base for Quince & Co. And I am just about 1 repeat away from finishing this, but the needles got stolen for another project, so I think it grew a little bit since last time. But here it is. This is the brioche section, and this whole part before is striped. That's the reverse side, but there it is. And the striped part has the bird's egg in the finch, which is fingering weight, and then the other color is a really light pale blue, and that is frost. So my intention was that you wouldn't really notice a huge difference between frost and egret once it was knit up, and I think that it works out pretty fine. So yeah, this has been enjoyable to knit. It takes a lot more concentration, and I think last time I mentioned that I had to rip back quite a bit because, well, and I hadn't even ripped back, I had to like unknit every stitch because I didn't really know how to make, to correct mistakes in brioche. So that was a little bit time consuming, but now it's going along and I'm pretty close to being finished, but this just hasn't been what I gravitate towards at the end of the day when I don't want to look at directions. So that's why it's pretty much not had that much done on it, but at the same time I'd really like to get it finished because I am pretty close to finishing it and I think it would be nice to wear now that it is getting chilly. The other project that I worked on this week I hadn't cast on last time, but this is the Redford cardigan, not cardigan, Redford shirt I think it's called, pullover, let's see, it's called Redford and it's a vintage inspired shirt. I don't really know why it's vintage inspired, I don't think it is, but whatever. And it's by Julie Hoover and it was published in Brooklyn Tweed, and here is a picture of it. It basically has stockinette stitch on the front and back, and this side panel has reverse stockinette stitch, and it has some exposed seams and also a little exposed seam sort of between the ribbing and the stockinette sections of the arms. And I have made a ton of progress on this, which is awesome. I'm just like I'm just happy that it's going quickly and is not like a major slog because it is a sport weight, I would say light sport weight, almost fingering weight yarn that I'm knitting this sweater out of. And the original pattern calls for Brooklyn Tweed Loft, which is a fingering weight, and I actually got very close to the original pattern gauge with the Derirum Natura, what's it called? Ulysse. It's a French company. It's made out of French and Portuguese merino, and it is a woolen spun yarn, so it's really light and airy and squishy, and it has a very heathered kind of look to it. This particular color is called Lagoon, and it's pretty similar to the bird's egg, but again, they both are a little bit more muted color than is showing up on the screen. These are 50-gram balls, and I have 9 balls. So far, this is the 5th that I'm working on right now. I'm just looking over at the rest of them, which are still in a bag, and I have 4 more in a bag over there. And right now I'm working on the back, which I cast on for last night. And I made a little bit of an adjustment for how, like, one of the things that I modified is how this kind of exposed seam look happens between the ribbing and the main stockinette section part. And I decided that I actually, first of all, there is no ribbing on the pattern for the body, only on the sleeve cuffs, and I wanted to include some ribbing on the body as well. And I thought that given Thomas's measurements, by the way, this is a pattern for a sweater for Thomas, if that wasn't clear. Given measurements of one of the sweaters that fits him very well from a store-bought sweater, I knew that I wanted to extend the length of the body quite a bit. So I decided to add some ribbing, not only to extend the length, but just because I think that it looks nice on a sweater. And so I did this line here between the ribbing and the stockinette a little bit differently, and all I did was, after this 1x1 ribbing, I just bound off all the stitches as if to knit, I guess. Like, I didn't do knit, bind off, purl, bind off, knit, bind off, purl, bind off. I did just knit, bind off, knit, bind off, knit, bind off all the way across by just like picking up the stitch behind and putting it over the next stitch. So then you bind off all the stitches, and then you pick up the back loop of all the bound off stitches. So this little line that you see created here is the front loop of the bound off stitches, if that makes any sense. And I think that it gives it a more subtle exposed seam look there, which I prefer. So yes, I knit from here. I knit here to here last night in a movie. Thomas and I watched The Fundamentals of Caring, which was a sweet movie. And then from here to here in class, 2 hours today. So lots of progress on that. And besides that's the back part that I'm working on, I have already finished lots of parts, which need to be blocked, but to give you an idea, here is one sleeve, which is majorly curling up, because yes, it hasn't been blocked yet, but I think it's pretty impressive how huge this sleeve is. It's the right size, everything measures out, especially comparing it to the store-bought sweater. But this sleeve is as wide as I am. Like, at the top of it, it is as wide as my bust. So I sort of feel like I'm knitting, a huge sweater. It's not even that big, but whatever. So I have 2 sleeves, and I knit the sleeves first, and they have the same kind of ribbing with this bound off edge here. And then I have the side panels, which are knit separately, and will be, I think they look kind of funny. Thomas is like, what are those sausages for? These are the side panels, this is like the underarm part here, and it will be with the reverse stockinette stitch out. And I haven't fully decided yet if I will have the exposed seams on the sides right here, but I guess I will, probably. I'll probably start to seam it up without the exposed seam for the ribbing, and then switch to having it be exposed, and I will then decide if I want to keep it that way or if I actually just want to have normal seams. So we'll see. But I have two, yeah, look like little bunnies or something, I don't know. Two side panels which are quite curly and rolled up, and then the back part which I'm working on now. So all that I have left to do is knit for, I think it's a total of, I don't know, 20 something inches, like, you know, a long ways to knit for the back, and then the front parts, and then I'll seam them all together. So it seems like it's going quickly, and I guess I'm on the fitz ball, so I'm about halfway through, if I use all the yarn, which I might, because I did make some modifications with the length of everything. So it's actually a little bit concerning. It was a little bit concerning at the beginning because I thought, okay, I'm going to knit the size, the second size, which is a 42-inch chest circumference, because that's the size of his sweater that I measured. But then when I started looking at the schematic, I realized that for some of the sizes, he's actually past the largest size, so he's really tall. I think like 6'1", like almost 2 meters tall. And so his chest, or his torso length, is quite long. And I think also maybe this sweater itself has, it's not cropped, but maybe it is a shorter style sweater. So yeah, that's adding quite a bit of length, which of course adds yarn, so maybe I needed to buy an extra ball, but hopefully, fingers crossed, that it will be enough. So far, it's going really quickly, and I'm enjoying it. I really like knitting with the yarn. I think that it produces a nice fabric when it's blocked, and I can show you the swatches that I knitted, which have already been blocked, so you can get a feeling of the finished fabric. So I knit 2 swatches. Here is one of them, and everything just really evens out nicely. When you look at the knitted piece itself, I think it looks a little bit wonky compared to the, well, you don't get a very good representation of it, I don't think, but everything really kind of smooths out and comes together nicely in the washed and blocked swatch. So I knit 2 swatches. This is the one I ended up using, and it was actually a mistake that I made between US and metric sizes. So this pattern has, I think it has probably both. It says suggested size for one of the needles is a US size 4, which is a 3.5 millimeter, and I did a US size 6, I think, which is a 4 millimeter, so I got them mixed up. So that was this first one, which turned out quite a bit larger than the second one, which was with more of an appropriate gauge. And I think this is a much nicer fabric because you can't really see through it in the same way that you can. This one is a lot more holey, and I think even though this one is a little bit, it just has more, it feels more substantial, and this one I think it would get stretched out more easily. So yeah, I might go ahead and block those pieces today, depending on if I have a towel to put them on to block it out. But I think it would be nice to have them, some of the pieces anyway, like blocked and finished, so that I will be ready to seam them up when the other pieces are ready. In terms of upcoming projects, I have a couple of plans, I guess, that are rather loose plans at this point, but I did get some yarn in the mail. And this came from Frida Fuchs, which is out of Germany. And I got 2 colors that will be used for sweaters. So I just want to show you her card because I think it's really pretty. And she wrote a nice note on the back. And it came really quickly. Again, it comes from Germany, so it's not that far from me, being in Sweden. But I just think she has some really nice colors. And I had been looking at this color for a while. This is a really pretty dusty rose color, which again, does not come through that great, but I figure it's good to get an episode out even if it's not perfect in terms of lighting. I will try and capture a better image of this on Instagram later, but it's more like that color, I would say. And this is something that I really cannot pronounce. Like, I have no idea. But it is 100% superwash merino, fingering weight, 100 grams is 400 meters, and it's on the Hosen Mots 4-ply. So, really nice, just pretty smooth, basic, soft sock weight yarn. And I have 3 of them. And I think that this will be just really nice to have for a sweater. So I'm planning on knitting either I have a couple of things that I've been thinking of. Either the Pontilla, which is a pullover, I think it's Pontilla, from Joji Locatelli, and that is in the Authentic collection. It has kind of a dropped shoulder construction, and it's basically just sort of like a loose-ish, flowy top, which I think could look really nice in this. The other thing which I might make with this is another herbarium, which is a pattern by Nadia, and NCL Knits, I think is her name. And I knit that once before in some yarn, which I ended up having to return, just with some dyeing issues and stuff. But I actually knit the whole sweater. You may remember it was really bright green-ish yellow, and I still really want to have that pullover, so I may knit that out of this yarn. I think it could be a nice choice. And so, but I'm not sure yet because I also got a sweater's quantity in another colorway, which I know this one is the Hanami color, again on the Hosen Mots 4-ply base. Everything else is the same. And here it is. This one is a really very light, creamy sort of pink base with some speckles of pink, some like pink and black speckles, which are just so pretty. And you can see it's like a little bit, the base is a little bit tonal itself, and then it has these areas of speckles. And it's actually, I think, the same sort of pink color as is in this skein, in these like more tonal parts. But then I guess the speckles could also be the same color, but just in a more concentrated version. So these 3 will also be some kind of pullover or cardigan, and I'm thinking either the Madewell, which is also by Joji Locatelli, or what else was I thinking? Yeah, or I think I could also do the herbarium or the Pontia out of this color as well. So it kind of just depends like what, I don't know, what I feel for at the moment when I start knitting it. So I'm very pleased with that purchase, and I guess it is time to start knitting. And I guess that is about it for this week. Just a quick episode in there for you, and I will be back hopefully soon with some more progress on other things like my quilt. That's the plan. So until next time, happy knitting. Bye.